And we're back. Another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates. Today we are joined by former Major League catcher Mr. Jesse Levis. How are you today, sir?
I'm great, Joe. Great to be here, Ben.
That's awesome, man. So what's it? You're in Philly now, right? You said?
Yeah, outside the city, we're in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. It's probably about 35 minutes from downtown Philly.
Okay, what's the weather like today? Because it's hot. It's weird because it's hot outside, but I had the air conditioning out here in the studio and it got cold, so I had to turn it off. And the wife's in there; she's really hot in the living room, but I don't have the air conditioning in there yet, so she's like, "It's so cold, it's so hot." I'm like, "Well, it's a little chilly in here, but
It was muggy here today. We got a couple thunder boomers come through and had a little bit of rain, so it's warming up. Finally warming up. Crazy
stuff,
spring.
man.
Yeah.
Stuff. All right, so I read that we were talking before the show. I read that you were born around Philly. Were you born in Philly? What was where were you born? Where you at now? Where were you born at?
Just like on the outskirts of the city, kind of like towards the suburb. It's still called Philly. It was called Northeast Philadelphia. That's where I grew up, went to high school, and played a lot of baseball in that area growing up. So
okay,
it's a nice area. Not far, probably 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes from where we are now.
Okay. What kind of things did you do when you were kind of up there? Like besides like baseball when you were growing up? I mean, did you typical 80s kid stuff, 70s, 80s? When did you grow up?
70s, 80s. I don't know. Like we were into like arcades, like in the late 70s and stuff. That was a big deal in our area. Arcades and pinball and asteroid and all those machines, and they were big, man. So we were always hanging out at the arcade and on Saturday night. That was our big big Saturday night. I played so much sports growing up, so I was always, on the fields, probably baseball more than most, but, we got our share of snow too, like they do in Cleveland. Not as much, but, we had some good sledding and all kinds of cool stuff. It was nice area to grow up in.
There is way more snow. For those, we've got a lot of UK guys watching, obviously. I was telling Jesse before the show, but there's so much more snow in Cleveland in the Midwest than there is in the East Coast. I was in New Jersey for a while, and like for a whole winter, we got up there because I was in the Air Force for back in the day, and we were at Fort Dix, McGuire, it's called now. Well, it was McGuire Air Force Base back then. Now it's Joint Base McGuire, Dix, something like that. But the whole winter, it only snowed like one time, man. It just doesn't snow like that here.
Yeah, it's not snowing the same anymore. Like last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, it's not no blizzards like they used to be back in the day, 20, 30-inch snowstorms. They cancel a week of school and you're just playing all day, playing football, tackle, and sledding and snowball fights and bumper hopping. I don't know if anybody knows what that is.
Yes, we used to call boot hopping. We just
I can't believe we did that.
I know, we're so reckless. Like you do that nowadays. Did you do that nowadays? You probably get arrested, right? You can't go
there. Hell yeah. I can't believe I think back and I did that. I'm like, I could have died easy. Run over by a car.
Some people may not know what we're talking about. So some people call it skitching, boot hopping, bumper hopping, whatever. But basically, you find a bus or something where they can't see you. You crouch down low, you grab the bumper, and you just total along with the car. Now, if you hit a dry spot, you're going to lose your ankle. So it was really dangerous. You can only do it on days when there was, a decent amount of snow on the ground. Because if not,
that's not good. We should probably not talk about that anymore.
Right? So how many brothers and sisters you got growing up?
I got two older brothers. Elliot, who's probably 9 years older than me about, and my brother Jules is 3 years older, and he's the one I hung out with mostly growing up, tagging along, and he would let me play with his friends, and I always, did well enough to compete, and he let me tag along, which was big help in my athletic career.
Okay. Was he into sports? Did he play any sports when he was coming up?
Yeah, he played high school baseball. He was an all-league center fielder at the same high school I went to, Northeast, and he just, wasn't into the books and didn't pursue anything after high school, but he was a really good ball player. My older brother, Elliot, he taught me to hit left-handed when I was a youngster, maybe 4 or 5 years old. We played a lot of wiffle ball in the backyard, and he turned me around, and he knew we weren't going to be fleet of foot. So it really helped me a lot being a lefty.
I was going to actually ask you about that later, but we'll touch on it now since you brought it up. Well, you are a right-handed catcher, and pretty much all catchers are right-handed. There may be like two in the history of the league that have been left-handed. That's how you did? Your brother just said start batting lefty? Did you ever want to try?
I wasn't a catcher at 4 and 5 years old, but he knew I, wasn't going to be fast, and catching might be my future if I played baseball. And he turned me around, and I picked it up just like that, and stuck it out. And I tried to turn around and switch hit when I was about 13, 14, but it was kind of too late. I fell in love left-handed, but it didn't matter because, if you hit lefty, you don't have to hit righty, especially if you can't run. I wasn't a very good base runner. We're very speedy. I was a good base runner, but not very speedy.
Well, you're closer to the base if you're batting lefty.
Yeah,
right up
an extra step or two. So,
now, what'd your parents do for a living?
My father was a salesman, and my mother was a salesperson also. My dad sold for a plumbing company, probably 30, 40 years, really good at it. And my mother did telemarketing on the phone. So a lot of sales in the family. My older brother got into sales, and yeah, a lot of that going on.
Wow, telemarketing. That's
tough biz, right?
I remember in 90, maybe 7 or 8. It was right before I was went into this trade school thing and then college. But I went to this job interview, and it was like a plain dealer, and it said, "Oh, we need people to do something." It was $9.50 hours, a lot back then, or whatever. And I went down there, and I was standing in the room, and I was like, "Is this a telemarketing spot?" I was looking around because there was like people sitting there with like scripts and doing stuff. It was in a spot. It was right outside Progressive Field or Jacobs Field. You go down there used to be a road that went right down there in between. It was right at the bottom of the hill, right there in their flats. And they would, and again, the interview, and the guy's like, "Well, here we do this and that." I was like, "Is that something to be interested in?" I was like, "I'm not gonna lie to you, buddy. I did not want to do anything like this at all. I'm out of here."
It's hard work, man. It's tough business. I envy my mother. I mean, I don't know how she did it for so long, but she made a career out of it and made a living. It was tough, though.
Now, when the movie Rocky came out, how old were you? Do you remember that?
I think it came out in 76, so I was about 8, and I thought I was part of the movie. I mean, that really inspired me as a young kid, as far as, getting up at 5:30 in the morning as a 9-year-old and jogging around the block and trying to, crack eggs and drink eggs right out of the cart. My mom was ready to kill us, but it was an inspiring movie for everybody. I mean, but I guess if you're from Philly, you kind of take it a little bit to heart as far as, knowing the sights and knowing what he went through in the movie. And, I was good friends with a fellow catcher, John Marzano, who was a South Philly guy who he passed away some years ago, but he really took it to heart. He's probably 5, 6 years older than me. And I mean, he lived by that movie. Everything he did, he felt, and he was a big league catcher as well. John Marzano, Olympic catcher. He was a role model of mine and guy I really looked up to. So, I mean, I think if you're from Philly and you watch the movie and you love it, I still watch it. I mean, I showed my sons and daughters, they're sick of it already. They don't, they've seen it 20 times already, but every time it comes on, I can't pass it.
Now, how old were you when you first ran up them Rocky steps?
Oh man, probably, I don't know, 10, 11. I mean, we got up there pretty quick. And everybody who comes through the city, I try to take their visitors, guests, if they're out of towners, and that's the first thing they want to see. And his big statue is right outside that museum right now.
Yeah, they did that. When we were there for we're big Browns fans here in Cleveland. And we were there for the draft in 17, the one they got Myles Garrett.
Sure.
That was it. It was so balls hot, dude. It was so hot. Like it was
fun though. I watched it on the tube. Yeah, that looked really fun.
It was a blast. Yeah, it had to have been 95 degrees. I mean, it was just so hot. Because we went to one in Cleveland when they had drafted Cleveland last year. This was last 2021. Or maybe it was this year. No, it was 2021 because this year was Vegas. That's right. Yeah, last year, dude, it would rain. The whole first day, just pouring rain. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, it was like 50 degrees in pouring rain. Like, welcome to Cleveland. It was ridiculous. Yeah, the one in Philly was awesome, though, man. When was the last time you ran them stairs?
Ran them? I think our daughter's birthday, we were down there at a restaurant having maybe her 16th birthday, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And we took a trip over there and we were running up and down the whole family. It was fun.
You guys every time do you do the thing at the top?
Yeah, every time. And then at the top of the stairs, his little foot he has it's like a wall or the Walk of Fame, like his little sneaker marks are right there and signed it Rocky. It's kind of cool at the top.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, because I went there. When I went there, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty drunk when we did the stairs, I think. I can't even remember if we did them, honestly, because we went to the bells around there too, the Liberty Bell.
Hey, yeah, everything.
And we went and saw the Liberty Bell. And the thing was all right by the steps, so you could just see it the whole time. I mean, it's not like you had to go too far. Though they had the event actually at the steps.
Right.
But what kind of what else sports did you play in high school besides baseball? What did you play? Wrestling, football, anything like that?
Nah, I mean, I played football in middle school. Kind of like I knew my sport was going to be baseball, so I kind of focused all year round on it back then before it was an all year round sport. So I mean, I didn't really want to get hurt. I remember I played JV football in 10th grade and I got smoked. And I said, what am I doing? You know, I have a chance to play baseball in college and maybe professional one day, and I got to get off this field. So, but I liked football, you know, too short for basketball, but I played it, you know, intramurally. But my sons are way better athletes than me, Joe. It's amazing. Like they run, they can bounce off the walls, and they're way better athletes than I was.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, a question from Captain. He's from Great Britain. He says, Jesse, what is your favorite baseball movie and why?
Why? You know, it's a little risky, but I love Bull Durham. Bull Durham was one of my favorites. I mean, I was at North Carolina. I went to UNC Chapel Hill. I played my baseball for the Tar Heels from 87 to 90. And they were filming that down there when I was a sophomore. So I got to meet Kevin Costner. He came through the campus and, you know, he came to the campus spot, Four Corners, the popular bar on campus. And I'm telling you, every girl on campus was mobbing them. And I had a friend who was an extra in the movie. So that even made it better. I mean, he was the catcher when I was a freshman. He was a senior. So we're still friends to this day, but he's one of the batters he told which pitch it was coming, you know, and when you speak of me, speak highly. So it's kind of cool to meet Kevin Costner and see it being filmed.
Hell yeah. I've never met Costner. I've never trying to think the last thing that he was. Oh, that draft day. The draft day was not. I don't know.
Cleveland too, right? That was all.
Yeah, it was cool because the Browns were in it, but I'm not gonna lie, that really wasn't too good.
You didn't like it? No. I like Kevin Costner. I'm a big fan of his.
Oh, the stuff was the cinematography and the dramatic scenes were cool, but I mean the actual premise of the movie was just so utterly ridiculous. I mean, he traded up to get a guy he could have got when he traded down.
What happened? Yeah, the whole draft scenario. Yeah, it was brutal. But there were good actors in it.
Yeah, dude, there were so many crazy actors in that movie, man. So many random people. It seems like they just threw a bunch of people together and said, let's make a football movie and roll with it. All right, we got another question from Cap. He says, Jesse, why do you think baseball really hasn't caught on in the rest of the world?
Rest of the world. Well, I mean, it has been, you know, played in Japan and China and Taiwan. It's hit there pretty strong. I mean, they're probably into it more than we are at some point, you know. I don't know about like soccer in Europe is so huge, man. Soccer is so big. I don't know if the weather accommodates baseball all around the world. You know, some of these cold weather countries and places, you know, might be tough. But now with all the analytics and everything, it's changed so much. It might be too hard to figure out for some of the people, you know, like X, Y, Z. You know, it's not just catch it, throw it, field it anymore.
Yeah, because if you think about it, man, there's really, you got all of it. Korea and Japan, they're baseball crazy, and Latin America, obviously Dominican, a little bit,
Taiwan.
Taiwan's but like all of all Africa, all of Europe, they had not one baseball president. I mean, maybe it's because of the cricket too. I think they got cricket's probably the more popular. But it's not because you think about, man, all that there's got to be 1 billion people in Africa. You can't tell me 3 or 4 of those guys couldn't play baseball. I mean,
didn't they make a movie on the India before? Like they had a big tryout. Did you ever see that movie? It was maybe 5-6 years ago.
I think I remember
where they had a huge tryout and they had pitchers. They were trying to, you know, throw 90 miles an hour, and I think they found a couple guys. It was a big contest. I think it was true story, and it was a good movie. You should check that one out. I forget the name of it though, but it was based in India.
I love those Indian movies. There was a movie called Outsourced. It was based in India. It was, I don't know what exactly time frame, maybe 7-8 years ago, but the guy like went down to, he was trying, the whole premise was he would go to India and, you know, coordinate with back in the States with the computer company. And at the end of the movie, they closed down the one in India and they moved all to Shanghai. So like he was learning with it.
Yeah, this is different. This was actual baseball. Like they were really trying to find in India a couple pitchers. And I think one of them signed and he may have made it to Double-A or maybe even higher. One of them was pretty good. I forget the names. I have to look that up.
Yeah, I'll have to 100% look that up. Now, at what point did you realize, like, okay, I can maybe, you sound like you were pretty young when you like, okay, I can do this for a living. I can maybe, get pretty high in baseball. When do you think that came about?
I always believed I wanted to be a major leaguer since far back as I can remember. That was my dream.
Right.
But I think when the Phillies won the World Series in 1980, I just became contagious, like baseball and, in the city, and everybody was so gung ho with, the Philadelphia Phillies team, and getting past that. And I just really believed it. Probably 12, 14, I went to a Phillies tryout when I was 14 years old, where you weren't allowed till you were 16. I tagged along with my older brother, and I did well. I was good. I was pretty advanced for a 14-year-old, and the scout really liked me, and that was really a lot of attention put on me as a 14-year-old. And he followed me all the way through high school and drafted me, the scout.
Oh, wow.
So, I was drafted by the Phillies out of high school as an 18-year-old, and I got to play on a USA junior team at 18, and with superstars like Mike Mussina and Willie Banks, and just loaded, man. So, and I competed well with those guys, and I said, man, these guys are the best in my age group anywhere in the world. And that gave me a lot of confidence to really catapult me to North Carolina and just take off.
Nice.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great journey. Went too fast though.
Oh, for sure. Now, what did you decide? You were talking about this a little bit earlier, but like, how did you decide on catcher? Like, catcher's a rough position. You got to get down, get up, get down, throw here, throw there, a lot of, whatever. What made you, of all the positions, the least glamorous one, arguably, is catcher? What made you decide on that? How old were you?
I was 9 when I started playing competitively on a travel team with my older brother again, and we were loaded. We had guys. We have like 4 guys off that team that went to Division I as 9, 10, 11-year-olds. So we were really good, and it was a baseball crazy area. I liked touching the ball every play. That was a big part of it. I had a strong arm. I loved catching. I didn't blink when guys would swing, and all the kids would blink when guys would try to, catch. It's hard, to really keep your eyes focused and catch and receive. But I liked all the action and getting dirty and putting the gear on and sweating. It was fun. It was a blast all the way.
Now, this just randomly occurred to me. At what point, when you're like, say you're batting, okay, how many far batters back do you get before you start putting the gear on if you're in the lineup? Like, say there's 2 outs and you're like 3 guys back. Do you start slowly putting it on, or how does that work?
Well, if you're not going to bat that inning, usually if you're about 5, 6 away, you usually have your shin guards on at least all the time. Shin guards you basically sleep with those babies on. So, you take the chest protector off sometimes if it's super hot. You can get drinks and, towels over the head. But, yeah, when you're on deck, like I always tell my son, one of my sons is a catcher, show confidence in that hitter. He's going to get a hit. Take your shin guards off. With 2 outs, you see a lot of kids, high school, college, they still have their shin guards on. You be ready. Show confidence in your hitter, your hitter up at the plate, but you got to be ready to hit. I hate kids. It's like all of a sudden they get rushed. They got to start ripping off their stuff and they're rushing up the home plate and they're not ready. So, you got to separate it. Like when you're hitting, and when you're catching, that's really important.
Okay. Kevin, there's another question. He says, got to ask, are there many groupies in baseball?
Groupies. If there are, I didn't encounter many, but, I had some teammates that would get caught up in some of that. Yeah, there are, or there were. I don't know what there is today.
All right, Jamie asks, what is your best favorite stadium you've played in?
Favorite stadium? Well, I love Boston, Fenway Park, and old Yankee Stadium. They're classics. To stand where Babe Ruth stood, that was always a great thrill for me. Yogi Berra and all those greats of greats played at that place. That was a lot of fun playing there. But, getting closer to home, like Camden Yards, was a lot of fun for me because I would have a lot of family there. And the ultimate would have been Veterans Stadium in Philly, but I got hurt right before we went there when I was with the Brewers. So I missed that. That was the dream, but I just missed it. But I got to go and take BP and, pregame with the team. So it was cool.
Good stuff. All right, Kevin, another question. He says, if you could pick a Field of Dreams type team, who would you pick? So basically, I think he's asking who's your, top of each position kind of thing.
Top of the for all time?
Yeah, but yeah, let's do all time.
All time. I guess I go with bench at catcher, Johnny, big Johnny fan. Mike Schmidt at third.
Short hard, right? Ozzie Smith.
Yeah, there's some great ones.
Honus Wagner, A-Rod even in there. I mean,
Jeter was, class act, and he was just a winner. Probably Robbie Alomar at second. Greats. I mean, Lou Gehrig at first. I'm a historic guy. I like the history of the game. Probably Ruth and right, Mays in center, DiMaggio in left. We'll put him over there on the corner, even though he played center.
That's a great lineup right
maybe
there.
Maybe Koufax on the mound and Ryan from the right side.
Nice.
Yeah, it's quick. Sorry.
How did your high school team do? Did you guys win a lot? What was up with that?
Like my sophomore year, we only went high school 10th, 11th, 12th. We didn't have a ninth grade. We were still in junior high. But my 10th grade year, we were loaded. We won our championship, and we had I'm thinking 4 guys play Division I baseball off that team eventually. There was 10th and 11th and 2 12th graders and scouts at every game. We had a first baseman named Howie Freeling, who was a preseason All-American in 6'4", 220. I followed him down to North Carolina. He's a good friend of mine to this day. And there were like 20 scouts at every game, a high school game. It was kind of cool watching him, but they got to see the rest of us as well. So it helped all of us.
Nice.
But 10th grade, and then each year it kind of went down. 11th grade, we made it to the playoffs. And then by 12th grade, I was the last one there, and our team wasn't very good. We didn't make the playoffs. So it started great, but it didn't end great in high school. Baseball.
I got another question from Kevin. He says, Jesse, in the film of your life, who plays you?
Who plays me? Bruce Willis.
Nice. There you go. Look. All right, we got a question from Blake. He says, Jesse, who was the best pitcher you caught for? Randy Johnson was scary when I was a kid, LOL.
I faced Randy Johnson. I never got to catch him, but I caught some really good pitchers, man, in Cleveland. I caught Bartolo Colon and Charles Nagy and Hershiser and Martinez. I mean, Bartolo Colon was amazing. I caught him one game in Cleveland in 1999. I think he went a complete game shutout against the Angels, and the Angels were good. They had Salmon and Gloss, and they were loaded, man. And he went right through that lineup, 4-hit shutout, like 90, maybe 100 pitches, 90 fastballs. He was throwing like 101 with unbelievable control and command. And he threw a couple sliders and a couple changeup. It was just overpowering. It was like the best game I ever caught,
Nice. Bartolo was a stud back in the man. If we had Bartolo,
he could still pitch, man.
If we had him like 4 years earlier, like if Bartolo was like,
awesome.
That'd been great.
Awesome.
That'd been beautiful.
And a good dude, man. Just a good guy.
He seems like real laid back. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, cool guy.
Now, how many colleges recruited you outside North Carolina?
I was close to going to Georgia Tech. It was between North Carolina and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech probably was the place to go at that time. They were really good, and they were up in, North Carolina was kind of in a lull after B.J. Surhoff and Walt Weiss and Scott Bankhead. They were really good before me. But I liked the coach better at North Carolina. He was great. He was really outgoing and really motivated me. And the other guy at Georgia Tech was kind of ho-hum, and he didn't even seem interested, even though he wanted me, so. And I, like I said, I followed my good friend who went down there 2 years before me to North Carolina, Howie. So it was a lot of fun. And by my third year, we went to the College World Series. So it was the right choice by the end. So we had a good time.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, we got a question from Blake again. He says, what is the fastest pitch you ever caught? Also, what is it like to hit a home run? I was terrible at baseball, but love watching it.
The fastest pitch I ever caught, he said, or hit?
Yeah, fastest pitch you ever caught, he said.
My Bartolo Colon was 101. That was the fastest. And it was, like I said, it was amazing command and control. Like if you put your hand here, it didn't miss. He was really good with his control. To hit a home run, that's the greatest thrill. I mean, I was going to say it's one of my biggest thrills in being a big leaguer was hitting my first major league home run in Detroit, Old Tiger Stadium. So that was nice. I was walking on air, or actually jogging around the bases on air. I thought I was dreaming. So it was kind of cool. But it's always great to hit a ball on the screws and watch it go in the air and go out of a big league park. That's a huge thrill. I didn't hit many of them in the big leagues. So.
Now, do you got any? This is just a random question on that line. Did you get to keep them balls, or do you got any memorabilia from your major league days?
Yeah, I got everything I can. Like my first major league homer was with the Indians, and it was in Tiger Stadium. And Mark Whitten, who was our right fielder at the time, hard hitting Mark
Hard
Whitten.
hitting Mark Whitten.
He ran out there, and after the inning, and he brought 2 baseballs, and he traded them with the fan in right field in old Tiger Stadium. They gave Mark the ball, and he brought it in and gave it to me. It was kind of cool. I got my second ball. I hit off a Curry Lacey. It was in Fenway Park. I hit it in the bullpen, and it was in the Red Sox bullpen, and they flipped it over to our pitching coach, and he gave it to me. And then my third home run, I hit off of David Cohn. That was the biggest name pitcher I hit a home run off in the big leagues in Milwaukee, and it went in our bullpen. So I got all 3 of my major league home runs, which is kind of neat. I don't think everybody has every major league homer they hit.
You might be. I mean, maybe there might be a guy who has like 1 or 2, but you might be the only person who has 100% of your home run balls.
I got all 3.
That's awesome.
And they all mean a lot, man. They mean a lot to me. My first major league hit, I got that one. That was cool. That was an old Cleveland Stadium.
Oh yeah,
May 4th, 1992. Can't forget it.
I might have been at that game actually.
It was raining. It was nasty out.
92 was that the year we had the there was one, we had a no-hitter, or there was a doubleheader, and like one of the games of the doubleheader was a no-hitter, but we lost. You remember that?
I don't remember that game. Maybe I wasn't up at that
93 or 4. Oh, that was fun.
Because I was up and down a lot, Joe. When I was in Cleveland, I was like on the roller coaster. Boy, it was hard. It was hard for me in Cleveland. I loved it, but it was tough.
All right, we got some questions coming in hot. We got Captain saying, what is the worst place you've ever visited or played at?
Ooh. I hate to say this, but I think your family's from Toledo, you said, Joe?
Yeah, I was born there.
Old Toledo Stadium was really bad. I mean, that was a AAA stadium, and you had to walk through, like when you came off the field, you had to walk through the crowd to get to the clubhouse. So you get mugged by fans trying to steal your bat and take your glove. But it was a tough place to play, and the field wasn't that great. The new one is really nice. I got to play at the new one too later in my career, but Toledo was a little rough for AAA in the minor leagues. I scouted at a place a few years back when I was scouting with the Phillies in Clinton, Iowa, man. Oof. I never played there, but I scouted, and you opened your car, and I think there's a dog food plant there. Like it smelled like you walk out and you smell the air and it smells like dog food. It's disgusting. So, I mean, I hate to say, I hope there's nobody from Clinton on the call or on the show, but I don't mean anything bad about Clinton.
Yeah. It's funny with that Toledo Stadium. I remember that Toledo Stadium because the Ohio Sports Hall of Fame is like right attached to it.
Is it?
Back in 91, 92, somewhere in there, me and my dad and my brother went out there, and they let you go on the stadium, and it was really cool. I remember that.
Where was that at, Joe?
That was in Toledo. They had the Ohio Sports Hall of Fame. It was right attached to the stadium. Yeah, that's cool.
Very cool.
All right, we got Captain. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but he says, dish to dirt, any players you really didn't care for, really didn't like.
Didn't like. I mean, I got along with everybody, Joe. I mean, I didn't really have any personal differences with some of the pitchers you can have some struggles with when they start telling you don't know what you're doing, and you kind of take it personal. Like some veteran pitchers on Cleveland, Dennis Martinez was one of those. He just liked it his way, and he didn't really think a younger catcher knew anything, so he treated me kind of poorly. So I didn't really care for him, catching for him or whatever.
Presidente, nice.
Yeah, he was a great pitcher. But
here's a good one from Blake. He says, do you think Bonds, McGuire, etc., basically all the guys have been blacklisted because of juicing? Do you think they should be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. That's a tough call for me, Joe. I mean, I play with a lot of guys that I didn't see them inject themselves with steroids, but I kind of know they did it. Friends, colleagues, they kind of ripped me off a little bit. I feel like, Joe, I was a clean guy. I played it the right way, the whole way, all the way. So, I mean, I felt kind of cheated at the time, looking back. I mean, there's guys in the Hall of Fame now that cheated, that just did it and never got caught. Joe, they just flew under the radar, and I know a few of them, so if they're in, I mean, Bonds and Clemens, I mean, they were the best of the best, So I mean, it seems like somebody had it out for both of them to get them. You know, so
I think the standard should be kind of. I mean, it's such a gray area.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't sit there and not acknowledge somebody like Barry Bonds. I mean, like a 690 batting,
762.
Yeah, on base percentage was it seemed 1 year, 2002, whatever. So like you can't sit there acknowledge. I think the standard probably somewhere in the lines of, if this guy would have never done that, how he would have been. But you can't really judge.
Put an asterisk next to it and put a little plaque up there and say what they did, or if they were really caught and stuff. I mean, Clemens was phenomenal. After, like, I faced Clemens in 94 or 95, and he was kind of done. He was at the end. And then I faced him again in 97, and I couldn't believe it. like it was night and day. He was phenomenal. Like 97 with command and a forkball from hell. Like, he was unhittable, So when you got a hit against him at that point, it was pretty special, Do
you remember that one that you say about Clemens? This is funny. I remember in 07 when he was like, he would just like sit out back then, like the 2000s, he would just like kind of sit out the whole year and then just like come in for the playoffs. And then the one
he was still playing. He's like 44 years old.
Right. Or whatever. But there was that one commercial for like a phone company, and he was like, it was like supposedly his wife, and he's like, he's like, all right, tell me to come home and I won't go play now. And he couldn't get any reception, and he just went and played again. That was great.
I think it's phenomenal how long those guys played. like when I was 35 years old and still playing, Joe, I felt like crap every day. I needed stuff. I didn't take anything, and my game was like going this way. And Bonds at 35 to 42 or whatever was going straight up, and it's not natural. I was a catcher and he was an outfielder, and he was probably the greatest player I played behind, and caught behind, greatest hitter. So, I mean, phenomenal.
There's a running joke in the show. Beatles or Queen? Who you got?
I'm a Queen guy. I love Queen.
Okay. We got one for Queen there. So,
like
Blake, okay.
My wife's Beatles, but I'm Queen.
Okay. Nice.
I like it.
All right, we got a question from Mojo. He says, Jesse, have you ever been hit from a ball? Which one was the worst? Basically, you're hit by pitch. How many hit by pitches did you get, and which one hurt the worst? I think he's asking.
It still hurts me, man. Michael Jackson on the Indians. You remember Mike Jackson?
Oh yeah.
He threw hard too. He got me right here in the elbow, and I didn't wear any arm guards back in the day. And I'm telling you, if I touch it, it still hurts. Like, I had a big bubble here for about 4 days. It really was painful. Didn't break anything, but it got me good.
Oof. Another question from Blake. He says, what do you think of Bo Jackson? Love watching him break bats over his head and legs.
Bo Jackson probably could have been one of the best players ever played the game, if he didn't hurt himself. I played against Bo in 94 when he had his hip replacement, and he hit a rocket off of Albie Lopez. Everybody, I'm sure the Cleveland fans know who Albie was. He was a great pitcher, but he hit a ball to right center in Chicago at Comiskey Park, man. It's still going. And it was phenomenal. And he was like, he had like a little limp running around with his hip replacement. He's still flying though, Joe. He was still running. Like, I thought he was the best. I saw him on a recruiting trip to Georgia Tech when he was at Auburn. I saw him run a 76-yard from scrimmage off, boom, touchdown, live. I thought that was incredible back in 85. So he was
one of the best. I mean, I think he was good at baseball. Don't get me wrong, but man, when he was in his prime, he was unstoppable at football. I mean, if he wouldn't have got that hip injury against, I think it was the Bengals in playoffs, he could have been
nasty,
a lot higher. Because he only had 2-3 years of football. He didn't play football much.
I don't think he practiced either, Joe. Like they say in baseball, he didn't do anything. He just came out to the team. Like, I played with Frank Thomas in the Cape Cod League, and he would tell me stories about Bo. He said he wouldn't even come to practice. He'd show up and hit bombs and run touchdowns, and it was phenomenal. He was a freak. And Frank Thomas was pretty special too.
Big hurt. I like Frank Thomas. I like Frank Thomas's eugenics commercials. Those always make me laugh. It makes me laugh every time, Jesse. I love it.
Yeah, he was good. He was a good teammate. I spent a whole summer with him in Cape. It was funny.
Now, when you were down in North Carolina, were you there when Brad Daugherty was there? When did you start school?
I started fall '86. So yeah, Brad was there. I think J.R. Reed or Kenny Smith was just leaving. He was a senior when I was a freshman. Kenny Smith, he was phenomenal. J.R. Reed was the big guy. Like, he was the guy. Scott Williams, J.R. Reed. Yeah, they had some good teams. They never won a title when I was there, but they went pretty far some years. It was a lot of fun going to games, though.
Cool how epic was college, North Carolina, Chapel Hill in the '80s, dude? Describe it, man.
Describe it. I mean, I was I was not engaged like the normal student, though. I was baseball and 24/7. I was on the field and in the classroom, and it was a grind for me. School wasn't the easiest. College was tough. I knew I wanted to play baseball. I wish I would have studied a little more and worked on that end better. But college life was fun. I mean, Franklin Street's a blast. I mean, it's college town, USA.
Oh yeah.
It's 22,000 kids on their own, having fun, studying. It's awesome down there. You've been there, Joe?
I've been through North Carolina. I've never been on the campus of UNC Chapel, actually.
It's beautiful. You should go, man.
I might go down because we're going down for the Browns Carolina Panthers game opening week. I might head over there and see what's up.
Shoot over there. Yeah, it's a beautiful campus.
Oh, yeah. All right, we got a question from Dale. He says, do you think Pete Rose should be in the Hall? That's a good one.
I mean, I love Pete Rose. I'm born on the same birthday as Pete Rose, so I thought that was kind of good irony for me growing up. He was my favorite when he came to Philly in '79, and I got to meet him a few times. He was my idol. I think he paid his dues. I mean, if there's certain guys that get suspended, and he's paid 30, 40 years already of his life, sad. I mean, because I got to meet him when he wrote one of his books at a book signing, and he was just so bitter. It was sad. He should be living the best life right now. But he was my guy growing up. I wore 14 because of him, and I batted just like him when I was a little leaguer and through high school almost. So he was my favorite.
Okay, we got a question from Blake again. He says, "What was Albert Bell like?" Oh, he thought him and Jim Thome would have been the best 1-2 punch ever.
I mean, I tell Albert Bell stories all the time. He was one of my favorites, and Jim Thome was too. Jim and I came up together at every level, so I mean, I know Jimmy well. But Albert was one of the best hitters I ever saw. His strongest, hardest working at hitting. That like Brian Giles and Jim Thome and Jeremy Burnitz all watched him and really learned from Albert, his work ethic. And he was very, very, very intense. Don't mistake that. But he also had a light side, and he was nice. And he took me to lunch a few times, So I thought I was kind of friendly with him. We got along. He asked me to play catch with him, probably because no one else would. He threw he threw like every day long toss. He loved to throw. But very hard worker, very intense. Probably if he didn't get hurt, he would have been a Hall of Famer. I don't think people liked him. I don't think the media liked him because
the media hated him.
He didn't like them.
Hated that guy.
He didn't like them though, Joe. He didn't like them asking him personal questions and stuff. Eddie Murray was similar. Eddie was a great hitter, great baseball player as well, and I loved Eddie. I thought he was great. I got to play with him a year or two, and he was tremendous to talk with about hitting and baseball in general. Jim Thome, I mean, he's class act. I mean, he's, the real deal. I saw him his first game in minor league baseball. He was a tall, skinny guy and playing third base and really learning how to play and couldn't pull the ball at all, as a young 19-year-old. And then I saw him a year later after he was younger than me. He came to our team in Kinston. He was hitting them off the light towers in right field, so he really made a big jump in that year that I didn't see him. And then he was a tremendous person too. Good.
Oh yeah. I remember 92, I think it was 92 or 93. They had a open practice at Municipal Stadium. I went down there and got a bunch of autographs. I still got Thome because he was just coming up. Like you said, third base. He was so skinny. He didn't get thin.
Yeah, he was lean.
And who else did I get? And Johnny McNamara was managing the team.
Wow, that's way back. Maybe 91.
91. Okay, it was 91 then. Okay, yeah, that was 91. Yes, I got. And then
took over in there.
Yeah, was it McNamara 91? Then when was Hargrove? 93 or 94?
I think Hargrove took over maybe in 91 from McNamara, somewhere in that area. Because I never played for McNamara during the season. One spring training, like my first, he was still the manager, maybe 90 or 91.
Okay, it had to be 91.
Yeah.
Okay. Now coming in for the time for the draft, did you know you pretty much knew you were going to get drafted at that point, right?
Yeah, I had a good idea. Like I was one of the top 100 college players in the country, and all the publications said, and I talked to a slew of scouts, at North Carolina. They would come to my dorm room trying to ask questions. Nowadays, they can't even get close to the players. They got to have set up all these interviews. But so I mean, it was a funny story though. Like 2 weeks before that draft, we were going to the World Series and stuff, and my mother and my brother were down, my older brother Elliot, and we went to see the movie Major League, which is a classic. I think it was on the other night. I watched it. It's funny, but we went and saw that, and I remember thinking, man, that team is really bad. I didn't know much about the Indians as a high school kid growing up in Philly. Only that Len Barker was from my area here, and he pitched for the Tribe way back when, and threw a no-hitter, I think. But,
perfect game. You need one?
Yeah. Perfect. And so I was like, man, it'd be crazy to get drafted by that club. It'd be pretty crazy. And then 2 weeks later, boom, my name was called by the Tribe in the 4th round by the Indians. So that was and then after the draft and after I thought about it, I'm like, wow, there's a chance to move with this organization if I do well. That's that. And then that kind of got hit hard at the winter. That winter, they traded for Sandy Alomar. So they kind of put the brakes on me a little bit as a first-year player.
Now, how did they notify you of the draft? You're being picked? Did they give you a phone call? Did they send a
Back then, there were no cell phones, so they just called my house, and my mother called. And so we were sitting in an airport coming home from the World Series. We've been eliminated. And I was just like, man, I didn't hear nobody called me yet. I don't know. Is somebody going to call me? So I just called my mom, and she was freaking out, because, she couldn't contact me. I was at an airport. And she said that you were drafted by the Indians. So I fell on the floor. I was so excited. It was awesome.
Nice. And what was your impressions of Cleveland before you got here? Like, what did you know? You didn't say you know too much about it. Like, Cleveland doesn't really have the most awesome reputation in history. I mean, what did you think about it before you got drafted?
I thought about the great football teams and how football was really revered as the sport in Cleveland. I didn't really know much about Cleveland baseball. I really didn't, because we didn't see much of it in American League in Philadelphia. So I really didn't get to see Cleveland until 1991 when I was in Canton, actually. That's when we flew into Cleveland and drove to Canton, Akron, and that's where I played my AA season. And on some off days, we came into Cleveland a couple times. So that was my first time seeing the great city of Cleveland. The Flats was just coming up, and it was nice downtown. I thought it was cool.
Oh, we got some Flats questions coming up. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't think it's there anymore, is it? Is it?
Oh, it's decimated. They're rebuilding it, but it's like they're rebuilding it for people who live downtown and kind of the quote unquote yuppie crowd, like the grittiness, the blue collar Flats. That's gone.
It was really nice, man. I remember early '90s. It was a really nice place to hang out. Really nice.
It was hopping, son. It was hopping.
Yeah, a lot of good places.
What was your minor league journey? Where'd you start out? And I know you went to Canton, Akron. Did you go to like Kinston, Canton, Akron? Then
I started. They sent me right to Burlington of the Appy League. So I was kind of above that. I was 21 years old. Most of the kids were out of high school. But they wanted to keep me close to college. Like it was only a half hour from where I went to school in Chapel Hill. So they wanted to kind of break me in slowly. And I did really well in that league. Robert Person was on that team with me, Brian Giles. So it was a couple guys that were pretty good baseball players on the team. Jim Gabello was our manager. A lot of fun. And then about 3 weeks into that season, Joe, they sent me to AAA. They said Tom Lampkin was the AAA catcher at that time, who was a pretty good major league catcher as well. And he got hurt. So they called me up there, and the big team was playing against the AAA team for an exhibition game. Colorado Springs was playing against Cleveland. And I was like, man, this is pretty easy. I came to rookie ball, and I'm going right to AAA. So I go to AAA, and the very first at bat, I hit one to the warning track off of Rich Yett, who was a big league pitcher with Cleveland.
I met Rich Yett back in 1987. Before you finish that story, I got to tell you about Rich Yett. I was part of the Little Indians fan club back in 1987. All right. And Rich Yett was standing there, and I was a big fan of Pat Tabler. Both of them, the guys had feathered blonde hair.
That's awesome, yeah.
So I walked right up to Rich Yett with Pat Tabler's card, and he's like, "That's not me," and walked away. I come back 5 minutes later with the Rich Yett card, and he looks at me, gives me a dirty look, and then signs it. That was great.
That's funny. So yeah, my very first swing against a major league pitcher was to the warning track. I said, "Man, this is easy," And then I don't think I got a hit that game, but I played well. I caught well. I played the whole game, and I stayed with the AAA team. Mike Hargrove was the manager for probably a week because Lampkin was out, and I think I got one pinch hit at bat and maybe grounded out. Didn't do much after that. And then they sent me right back to Burlington of the rookie league. I was like, oh man. And then about 2 weeks after that, I was still playing well there, and they sent me to Kinston in the Carolina League. And then in 1990, my first full season in minor league ball, I went to Kinston. I was kind of hoping for Canton, but they sent me to Kinston and had a really good year. We lost in the finals. And then 91, I went to Canton Akron. Really good squads. We had a lot of good major league players. Yeah, we were loaded. And then 92, I went to Colorado Springs, AAA. And then I got called up in April of that year. So I got up there really fast, but I didn't stay up there when I first got called up. It's not easy to get to the big leagues, but it's harder to stay like this. Especially with Cleveland back then when John Hart, unless you were Manny Ramirez or Jim Thome, you weren't getting 5-6 a week, 2 weeks playing time. Like mine was start to start. If I produced, I stayed. If not, it was tough.
So 92 was your first year. Did you do camp in Tucson back then? Or did you?
Yeah, we were in Tucson. Yeah, my first 3 camps were in Tucson: 90, 91, and 92. That was a great place at High Corbett where they filmed Major League. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then I got to play in the fall league too. There, Joe. That was my Tucson Javelinas in the Arizona Fall League. We played in Tucson, so I spent a lot of time in Tucson. That was a really nice city.
Yeah, I was in Tucson. I was mainly in Phoenix, but we went down to Tucson a lot back in 2007. I was down there for this Air Force operation, and it's so hot, man. It gets way. But in the spring, it's not too bad though. 90s, 90s Arizona, nothing.
Summer though. I spent some summertime in Phoenix, and it's like walking out in a hairdryer right in your face, like blowing hot air.
You go from one air conditioning to the air conditioning. You cannot go outside. You're spontaneous. You burst.
Daytime stuff. Yeah, I don't know how they do it out there.
Captain has a funny question. He says, "No pressure, Jesse. But what's your favorite podcast? Is it this one?"
This is the first one I've ever been on, so this is my favorite, Joe.
Nice.
I don't know many podcasts.
All right, we got a question from Mick. He says, "Mick, would you like baseball teams to franchise or play playoffs in the UK like the NFL are doing? Huge money made in American sports and merch. Most football teams are owned by most of the soccer teams over there, the Premier League and all that, are owned by NFL owners now. So what do you think? Like." Maybe it's expanding the league. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but like, what do you think about expanding the league to Europe a little bit? What do you think?
The major leagues?
Yeah. A couple of games over there.
Didn't they play a couple exhibition games out in Europe a couple years ago? Maybe they did. Yeah, I think they did play in Europe. I don't know. The travel will be outrageous. I'm sure. It's not easy bouncing to Europe like that, but. I'm for it. I mean, I think it'd be great to show Major League Baseball. They've tried. They've been in Japan. They've been in Europe. They bounce around. They've been in Puerto Rico. I think we did a couple exhibition games in Puerto Rico a few times, and I think it's huge, and it would probably make the sport better, in the long run. So.
Oh yeah. Now, when you first come to Cleveland, you first reported. Where'd you end up living when you first came to Cleveland in '92?
Oh man. When I came to Cleveland, I stayed at the Marriott Key Center.
Marriott Tower Key Center right there. I used to work in that building on the 40th floor. Yeah.
That was a really nice hotel. And you can just walk over to the ballpark, And I remember my first night in Cleveland, Albert Bell gave me a lift back to the hotel. He was driving his brand new Lexus.
Nice.
It was funny. So that was a good memory.
Yeah.
And then I rented an apartment at the Reserve downtown.
Okay.
A bunch of the guys stayed there. It was kind of cool. High-rise apartment building.
Reserve Square Apartments over there in 12th and Lakeside, something like that. I think when LeBron first got a contract in Cleveland, that's where he lived actually.
Wow.
maybe LeBron had your old room. How cool is that?
LeBron. That's cool. That's an awesome story.
Okay. Now you're sitting there and you walk out in the Cleveland Stadium. How did it feel to be sitting out there in that giant cavernous bullpen dugout with 10,000 people crammed into a stadium built for 73,000 people?
Yeah, I mean, my first look at the major leagues was not the greatest, but it was the greatest, if you know what I mean. It was probably 32 degrees, sleet was falling, and I walked down on that field and I ran down that bullpen and I was in heaven. I didn't feel if it was 75 and balmy in my world. But he got me in there too that first night. I pinch hit. and I grounded out, but he got me right in there, and it was raining because I got a 2-0 count, my first pinch hit at bat there. And I'm telling you, Joe, like the pitcher couldn't have served it any better to me. And I fouled 2 pitches off straight back. Like any other day, I was killing it. And then he threw me a nasty split finger, and I barely made contact and hit it to second base. But it was checking in the box score. It was pretty impressive, pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Thrill of a lifetime.
Now, did Louis Isaac ever try to give you some chewing tobacco?
Oh, Louis was the best, man. He was my bullpen coach in AAA 2 years, and the big leagues a few years. He always had a great joke for you every day, man. He made you feel good, and he worked hard with me too. He made me a better catcher and a better big baseball player, and I really appreciate Louis.
Heck yeah! I only say that because growing up, and we grew up in the $4 general admission section. If you don't remember Cleveland Stadium, the general admission section was right there by the right field.
Oh yeah,
right there. And some of my earliest memories were just seeing Louis Isaac standing there, big old thing of dip right in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Big old thing of dip in.
Shoveling it in. Yeah. Most of those old timers, man, they like eat it. They didn't chew it. They just ate it.
Now you were coming up with a lot of the young guys with the Indians, man. Like you had Bell and Ramirez and Tomey, like I said, Sorrento and all those guys, and Baerga. I mean, that was like the prototypical. That was the lineup that the Hart kind of set off a lot of things for a lot of teams later down the line. A lot of teams followed that model. You know what I mean? What were some of those? This is when we get to the flats, man. What were some of those nights out in the flats? What did you guys go out a lot? Did you guys? I mean, you seem a little more straight laced than like Baerga and some of the party guys.
Yeah. I didn't hang with those guys. I don't think I would have survived at all if I did. They were pretty wild. But I went out. I had my girlfriend at the time who became my wife. So I mean, we were dating, and she was out there quite a bit. Early in my career, she got some time. But I got to know Charlie Nagy and Jeff Mutis and a lot of the younger pitchers, and we would hang out a lot together, and hang out at apartments and drink some beers and just chill.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
It was cool, man. It was good times in Cleveland.
All right, now the strike in '94. Now, do you remember back then? What was your opinion? Did you want to strike? Did you want to play? What was your thing? What was going on there?
It probably cost me some major league service time. Joe, I was in AAA at the time. Like I said, I was up and down a lot with Cleveland. Like day to day was my schedule. So I was in Charlotte, and we were playing really well. And then I was probably getting called up again in playoff. They were really making a good playoff run in '94. They were a really good team, Cleveland. Who wants a strike? I mean, it sucked for everybody, Joe, in the sport. So, I mean, especially the young guys who don't have any money to fall back on and relax. I didn't have any money. So, I mean, I wanted to play, and I needed to play, and I love playing. So it cost me probably a couple months of service time, or maybe more, who knows? Maybe somebody would have seen me sooner and wanted to trade for me, ahead of time. So, with Sandy there, I wasn't going to be the starter. I knew that, and Tony Pena was number 2, and Tony helped me a lot. I love Tony. Tony was one of my idols growing up, and I got to play.
Oh, who didn't remember Tony's Pena with the leg stretched out? It was phenomenal.
Super flexible, man. He was the best, but he worked with me and talked to me, and he wasn't afraid of his job, like a lot of times guys, but he helped me. So I appreciated that from Tony, and Sandy did too. So Sandy and Tony were great people. But I know I needed to get going, if I wanted to have a career in the big leagues. So, because Cleveland had an all-star at every position, and then depth behind it. They had guys coming up, and it was hard there. So a lot of guys made it elsewhere, and had good careers. So worked out.
Now, do you remember was there any excitement? Because you were bouncing around a lot. Were you there for the transition from the old stadium to Jacobs Field? What was your first thoughts of Jacobs Field when you got to see it?
Yeah, like I was there in '93 at the last home series against the White Sox, and that was incredible. See 80 be there too, Joe. It was like 80,
I was in the back row.
People. It was awesome, man.
Row, section 22, last row, section 22. Oh yeah,
that's the most people I've ever seen at a baseball game. Those 3 games against the White Sox, and they were really good. The Sox were in the playoffs that year, but it was a lot of fun being there. So in '94, I started in AAA, so I was in Charlotte, and when I got called up that year, we were on the road, so I didn't get to see Jacobs Field yet. So I was still waiting. '95, I broke with the team after the strike, And then that was my first like time playing there, and I thought it was incredible. What a great stadium, and the field and the facilities, the clubhouse, and everything was top notch, and state of the art. So compared to where we were coming from,
Oh
Cleveland
God,
Stadium is
I remember.
That's all I knew the big leagues.
Oh, dude, I remember the first tour we took because my dad bought us like a 20-game package for that season or for that year, and it was like March maybe '94, and they give us a tour. We just walked around like, my God, awesome. This is like heaven compared to that dump we had to lake. Now I know a lot of us like to think, fond memories of that Cleveland Stadium on the lake. That thing was not really that good of a place. It was a dump. No. Let's be real.
That was like my experience growing up. Like Veteran Stadium was like the cathedral, and then you got to be there as an older guy, as a major league player like myself. I walked into the locker room like, oh my God, there's rats here and it smells and but that was my mecca, like to where you grow up. I mean, that's where you believe is it, man. The Vet was my place, just like Cleveland Stadium was yours.
Heck yeah, man. So how
I couldn't believe going to the urinal one time. It was like a trough, like public, like everybody peed in the.
It's a bathtub. We peed in a freaking bathtub.
I never saw anything like that, Joe.
That's my first memory is going to the bathroom when I'm going to a baseball game, football game. I'm standing there and like, why is everybody peeing in the bathroom? I guess stand next to all these guys and pee in the bathtub.
Yeah, it was very strange. Like I remember I was there for something and I went to the bathroom and I saw, I'm like, oh my God, never seen anything like that.
Now, how special was that '95 season for you and the boys?
Awesome.
Man?
Awesome. So my season in '95 was strange, Joe. The team was great. I mean, they had great players, like I said, all stars at every position, and great camaraderie, and everything was great. After the strike was over, the spring training was 3 weeks, like it was kind of this year, and I broke with the team. I was out of options. So if they tried to send me down in spring training, there were a few teams that were ready to pluck me, which I was really praying for, to spread my wings and get out and play. But they kept me, and they kept Sandy, Tony, and me. So I was the third catcher. I maybe got 2 starts in maybe 3 weeks up to start the year. And they were rolling. Team was awesome. I mean, you could tell right away. When I batted, and I always hoped they didn't DH for me. I wasn't, a superstar, but I batted 9th and, held my own. So they sent me down like May 15th when they had to put their rosters back to 25 guys. And I went to Buffalo, and I was kind of upset. Nobody took me then. It was a tough time because a lot of teams were sending guys down and nobody was picking up guys really. So I went to Buffalo, and that was a lot of fun too. We had a great team there. We went to the finals. Jeremy Burnitz, Billy Ripken, Casey Candell, Brian Giles. We were loaded, man. Loaded. Paul Shuey. And
Shuey's a beast.
You get him on your show, Joe. You would love Shuey. He'd talk fish for the whole hour.
Oh, you got to hook me up. You got to hook me up, Jesse. You got to hook me up.
But so I go to AAA, and it's funny because my wife, we were engaged, my wife and I at the time, and we were trying to set wedding plans, and before the season started, she wanted to do it like in October. I'm like, I don't know if I'm with Cleveland. I don't know if we should do it in October because they might be in the World Series, And then as it turned out, when I got sent down, I was kind of bitter and pissed off. And I said, just plan it whenever. So she planned it October 29th. And as it turned out, we had a great season in Buffalo, and I tore it up. I hit over 300, had a really good season. And September 15th, they called me up, and I played against Roger Clemens the next day, all the guys that got called up. And then we were, they were winning 100 games and going to the playoffs. And Hargrove came up to me and Giles and Burnitz and Ripken and said, we need you to stay as alternates for the playoff roster in case, Sandy Alomar was hanging on by a thread. He had a bad knee. So, I wasn't going anywhere. But the other guys, they went home. They're like, if I'm not on the active roster, I'm leaving. So Burnitz and Giles and, big time players, they went home. I was like, Brian, Jeremy, you may never get to the World Series ever again. This team's going. So I stayed, and that was the most fun I ever had in my whole career. And I wasn't even able to play. I practiced with the team. I did everything as a player, but I couldn't play. I wasn't on the active roster for the playoffs.
No, like you said, there's an all-star at every position. And would you agree that maybe that '95 Indians team, bullpen starting lineup, that might be one of the top 5 We didn't win it. We didn't win the World Series. That might be a top 5 lineup of all time. People don't give it credit.
I think the starting pitcher could have been a little better. I think if it was better, we would have won. The Braves had Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine. We had Hershiser, Martinez, and Nagy. I mean, I loved Nagy. I love Nagy. I think he's the greatest. And Hershiser was kind of at the end, and Martinez was still pretty good. But, I think they were a little bit better pitching-wise. Offensively, no doubt.
My goodness. Loaded. When they had you can still name that lineup. I mean, Serrano went first. At second, you had Baerga. Shortstop was Skell. Third base was Tomey. Catcher was Sandy Yu and Pena. And then outfield, you had Bell, Ramirez, and God, who else was out there?
Kaloff.
Oh, Kenny Lofton. I can forget Kenny Lofton. Yeah, my God.
Kenny Lofton's one of the best center fielders ever.
All the names. Oh, my goodness. God, Kenny Lofton.
He's like a borderline Hall of Fame. I think he was on the Hall of Fame ticket, but he never got much.
Oh, that one catch when he just climbs up the wall. What was that about? Jeez.
Oh, talk about athletes, Joe. Oh, my God. He could beat me down to first backwards, I used to tell him. Like running backwards. He used to like that one. But he was phenomenal. And he was a basketball player basically in college,
University of Arizona, they say. I remember the one Rock and Rock Festival. He could dunk that basketball.
Oh, man, he could throw it down.
He's a
super athlete.
All right, so next year you were traded to you had to clear waivers and you were traded to the Brewers.
Joe, get back to that story about the World Series and my wedding. So we made it for October 29th, the date, and we were really nervous because the playoffs were getting through the first round, second round. And these are the best days ever for me on the baseball field, Joe, like celebrating with the team. It was the best ever. And then we get to the World Series, and then Game 6 is on October 28th in Atlanta. And our wedding is the next day, the 29th. And if we win that game, we go to Game 7. And Sandy's still hanging on. And Hargrove's like, I don't know if you're going to be able to – you may have to cancel your wedding, And it was really a struggle and scary. And we wound up losing Game 6, the 28th, and I flew in that morning of our wedding, got married.
How much? Wow, that's so crazy. How much of a life decision would it have been if you're sitting there, my wedding, Game 7 of the World Series? That's almost impossible to decide.
Yeah, I mean, you dream about that your whole life, both playing in a World Series,
right? On the same weekend.
Activated.
What have you been activated and you had to choose between your World Series and the wedding? You got to pick the World Series. No, we got to tell.
I think we were gonna like postpone it like till next week. It was weird. It was a weird time, but everything worked out great.
That's awesome.
We got lucky. Yeah,
that's so crazy. Now you're traded to the Brewers next year. You had to clear waivers. I had to look this up because I was going to ask if you were signed or traded. I just looked it up to save the question, but it says for left-handed pitcher Scott Nate and a pitcher to be named later. Right-handed ended up being right-handed pitcher Jared Camp. Did you ever meet any of these guys?
It's funny. Like when I came back to the Tribe in '99 and 2000. And I played in Buffalo in 2000, and Jared Camp I got to catch him a couple games on the AAA team. Not Jared, but who was the other guy you said?
Scott Nate.
No, it was Jared. I'm sorry, Joe. It was Jared, and he had a really good arm, man. So it was kind of cool catching the guy you got traded for.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was a great thrill.
So what was it like to have a little bit bigger role in Milwaukee? I mean, I'm assuming you were platooning up there. You had some better stats that year. What does that feel? Was that bigger for your personal growth? Did it at least feel like, okay, I got a good season in me? How'd that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I established myself as a major league player finally, and had played in over 100 games. And Mike Matheny and I were the catchers, the Royals manager right now. Mike and I were. He probably played a little bit more as the starter, but I played a lot. I mean, Phil Garner was my manager. He used me in a good way as far as, pinch hitting roles and starting roles, and really talked to me and communicated. And when I first got there, I looked at every position and I'm like, wow, there's not an all-star there. There's no all-star over there. I think I could play on this team, I just didn't have a realistic view of the major leagues at that point until I got traded. Cleveland wasn't normal in '95.
Oh yeah. Now who parties harder? Cleveland guys or Milwaukee guys?
I think the Cleveland guys.
Yes.
They were party animals, man.
That's
especially
awesome.
Baerga.
Man, there's some stories about Baerga. I heard. I'm not gonna get into all that, but yeah,
we can't talk.
My goodness.
I love Baerga, but he was going to the Hall of Fame, Joe, in my opinion. And
he was so good. I remember
5 years he was incredible.
I got a question about baseball cards later, but I remember it was $1.50 for 1991 Carlsberg Leaf of it, River City Trading Cards, right down the street here. I lived in Cleveland at the time, but I used to come out here to North Olmsted buy baseball cards. And I remember selling that card for like $15 a couple years later. That guy was supposed to go, he was going to be the next Rogers Hornsby. And then he fell off a cliff. Oh, yeah, what a talent.
I think he ran off the field a lot, Joe. It was a shame because people kept telling him, his friends, his close peeps, and he just kept doing it, burning it at both ends, and caught up with him.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Now, what was it weird when you were at the Brewers to switch leagues right in the middle of your thing when you were there? I think it's only happened like 3 times in Major League history to have a division, team switch in the American and the National League. And it was weird to me because like the one year we're in the division with the Brewers. The next year they're in the National League. We're still playing them because they didn't really play. They just started. Was that weird at all to you, or was this kind of part of the game you didn't really care at that point?
No, I thought it was really strange, but I looked at it like, man, they're going to need pinch hitters every game now. American League, even though Phil Garner used me like a National League player when I was in the American League, when our team was in the American League. But then when we went to the National League, he was using me every night I was in the game, either pinch hitting or starting or doing something, double switching. He loved working that lineup card and using every one of his assets. So, it was great for me. And to play and have an opportunity to maybe play in Philadelphia was what I was really looking forward to. But then I got hurt that year, so it kind of messed up that opportunity.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
would that be one of the only things you really didn't get to? You did a lot of stuff. Would that be one of the main things you really missed out on was getting to play in Philly?
Playing Philly, probably. Yeah, playing Philly. I did most of it except that. But I got to work out there, like I said, as a big leaguer, so it was kind of cool.
Nice. Now, what is your opinion of the DH? Now, should it have changed how they just did it, or should they kept it a long time ago? It's kind of weird, like all the rules that changed over the years. Something as drastic as the DH still stuck around. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if it's in one league, it's got to be in both, Joe. And I kind of am a traditional guy. I like the pitcher batting. I think the game's better, without that extra hitter. As a baseball player, I know the fans like the offense and the bopping and the homers and this and that, but if it's in one league, it should have been in both leagues all along. I don't get that, and then I think the playoffs and stuff, like they used to alternate it from the stadiums, right? Like,
yeah, like if you're in the World Series, or if you're in a league play, like if it was an American League Park, you use it. And if you're National League, you wouldn't use it.
Yeah. It gave guys that couldn't play defense an opportunity to play. So Eddie Murray, played another 10 years because he can just flat out.
Okay. Well, you got to figure the players in your leagues because there's, 20 more jobs they got, it's another position.
Yep.
All right, we got a question from Shar. She asked, what kind of music do you like, basically?
What kind of music? I'm all over the map. Sure. I like I said, I like Queen. I like Bruce Springsteen, a lot of old school 80s rock and roll, The Who. I'm a big Who fan. And then, my daughter loves Taylor Swift. I'll go to the concert with her too. So, I like all kinds of music.
I've actually been to 2 Taylor Swift concerts with my daughter too.
Great show.
I've seen Taylor Swift more than I've seen Metallica, and that's got to be a problem. I only seen Metallica once. I've seen Taylor twice, so it's really ridiculous.
I always wanted to see Pearl Jam. I thought Pearl Jam would be a great concert. I never got to see them.
Now you retired right after 9/11. Now, first off, where were you? What were you doing on 9/11?
Oh, you know what? It's funny. Like I was with the Brewers in AAA. And they called me up to the big leagues, Joe. I was at home in Philadelphia on September 8th. Mm-hmm. And I get a call and, hey, we need you in Milwaukee. And I was sitting around for like 3 or 4 days doing nothing. And I go up September 8th. I go to Milwaukee, or actually Houston. And then we fly back to Milwaukee Sunday night. And we play, I think we're playing the Cardinals. And he finally pinch hits me. Davey Lopes is my manager in Milwaukee at this time in 2001. And I walked, and I think the team lost that night. And then after the game, Davey came up to me and said, hey, you're going to start tomorrow, which was 9/11. You're going to be the starter. You're catching tomorrow. And then I woke up in a hotel and saw that whole catastrophe. And my wife and daughter were actually on their way to the airport coming to Milwaukee from Philly. And I was scared to death. I couldn't contact them. And thank God they, didn't let them in the airport, and they just sent them away. So I got lucky there, but that was a strange time, man, sitting around in Milwaukee. I felt like I remember just looking up at the sky all the time, How about you? Were you?
I was.
Where were you at?
I was going to Tri-C, Cuyahoga Community College at the time. And I got up, I had a roommate. I was 23, so I had a roommate, my first place over there on, it was right in the city on 114th Rush. And we saw the plane hit. We saw the second plane hit live. And that's when we knew it was popping down. Oh. And then I ended up going to class, and like in the middle of the class, it was like I had an economics class. And then the assistant dean came back. Everybody's dismissed. They were traffic jam, left us. It was just chaos, man. And then
where were you at? What state were you in?
I was in Ohio. I was in Cleveland.
You were in Ohio, okay.
Yeah, I was in community college at the time, and they just canceled everything, and it was chaos, man. It was wild.
Yeah, I had a high school classmate. She was in one of the buildings, passed away from. It's awful.
What told you it was time to hang it up? I mean, with the bones just aching. I mean, your last game was about a month or two after that. What happened there?
Yeah, the shoulder just gave out finally. In 2004, I played until 2004, but I wasn't in the big leagues from 2001. So I was mostly in AAA the next 3 years. Had some decent years. In 2002, I was in Louisville. Had a nice season. No call up. 2003, I was in AAA with the Phillies in Scranton. No call up. Solid season. Then I signed with the Mets and went to spring training, and my shoulder just gave. I was 36, and I went to see Andrews, who fixed it the first time. I had a first surgery in 98. He fixed it, gave me another 5-6 years of playing. And he said, if you have another injury to your arm, Jesse, you're going to lose use of your arm. So that made me just, rethink everything. And he just cleaned me up so I can throw batting practice to my sons and be a coach if I want.
Okay. That's a pretty good warning. If you get another injury, you could lose that arm. I would probably take that as a clue myself.
Scared the heck out of me. Yeah. He was a great doctor. He helped me a lot. Dr. James Andrews.
I remember I've heard he was a renowned neurosurgeon.
He did all the big ones.
Oh, yeah. Now, what did you do after your playing career? I read you were a scout for the Red Sox for a while. What else did you do?
Yeah, I scouted. I managed 1 year with the Mets I was in Kingsport, Tennessee. That was a lot of fun. It was just hard. Our family was just being born, and we have twin boys and a daughter, and they were young, and it was too hard on the family. And I just didn't want to drag them right through it again. I just got done it, I didn't want to do that to them. So I got into scouting where I can be from home more, and I worked with the Red Sox, the Brewers, and the Phillies for the last 10 years before COVID, and then that disrupted everything as far as my job. They let go of a lot of people, so.
Okay.
Kind of looking for work still.
We got a question from El Doofy says, this is the best part of the show. They like this part of the show. What's your favorite meal to have? What's your favorite foods?
My favorite meal? I like chicken cheesesteaks a lot. I like those, or corned beef special, big steak, big meat guy.
So I got to ask you the stereotypical Philly question. Which one do you like better, the Pats or the Genos?
Pats or Genos? I go with Genos.
Okay, the provolone.
Something in the whiz. The whiz they got that they call the cheese whiz.
I love the cheese whiz. I make that several times a year. It's such a people get like, oh, you can't do that. Cheese whiz is gross. Go out there, put some cheese whiz on a steak, and tell me it's gross. You're wrong if you say that because it's good.
Tremendous, right?
It's amazing.
They got some good steak joints out in Cleveland now.
They got some good spots. We got a lot of barbecue guys in the YouTube community side. We do a lot of stuff like that, but there's some decent spots. I mean, it's not as good as some other cities, I would say, but there's some good spots in Cleveland for barbecue.
Cool, Joe.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember too many when I was in Cleveland getting a cheesesteak.
Oh yeah. How many of your own baseball cards do you own?
Yeah. I get them in the mail quite often, Joe. So I mean, I don't know. They give you a bunch when you're playing. So I mean, I still have a bunch. I gave plenty out to people, friends, family. I probably own every card I have. There's one really special card I have that I only have a couple of. On one side it's Mike Piazza, and the other side it's Jesse Levis. So that's one of the coolest cards I have, and I got Mike to sign a couple of the cards that I have of that. So that's kind of cool. Mike's a Philly guy too, which is kind of neat.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he was. I remember seeing pictures. Now, do you want to talk about somebody who got to visit the vet a lot? My goodness.
Oh,
there's this baseball pictures group. It's called Classic Baseball Pictures, and they show a bunch of pictures from back in the day and all that
stuff. He was that boy with the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, they show him always in the clubhouse. Yeah. Everybody, so many pictures. What a great story Mike Piazza was, man.
He was really cool. I mean, we're the same high school year, 86, and I got to know him over the years playing against him, and we got to the minor leagues, and I worked out at his family's house a few times out in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Really nice. So I mean, he helped me a lot, Mike, through the years. So
My favorite baseball card here is that 1993 Top Stadium Club. That's a nice design.
yeah, they got some good cards back in the day. Are you a collector, Joe? Do you?
I used to be. I haven't bought a
stuff?
baseball card. I mean, I
What's your
bought
best
them.
card? Who you got?
My best card. Oh, gee, I got a Pete Rose rookie, but I don't know the condition of it. So that's the thing.
Ooh.
It's probably like it's probably worth $300-$400, I'd say. But the top has a little tiny stain on it, so I don't know exactly how much it's worth. But I mean, I'm just gonna keep it in a drawer, and then when somebody's cleaning out my stuff, I don't have the energy to sell stuff like that.
That's cool though, Pete, man.
Oh yeah.
That's a great card.
Now, what do you were you ever in any video games? Do you recall?
I think I was. I think my nephews, way back in the 90s, like when I was established in Milwaukee, I think they put me on one of those video games. So it's kind of cool. And even like a Stratomatic game, like I had a card on there. It was kind of neat. I remember my brother showed me it. That was kind of cool.
Stratomatic. Wow, that's throwback.
Old school. Yeah,
that's old school. That was before fantasy baseball. Wow. That's taking it
all
old.
the GMs come from.
Nice.
Stratomatic.
Now, when was the last time you were here in Cleveland?
Cleveland. I was there right before the COVID hit, scouting. I was there in 19, I think, watching the Marlins play at Cleveland. Got to see Lindor and Brad Hand and all the guys that they were trying to, thinking about moving eventually.
Nice. Now, what do you think of the state of baseball is in general? Do you think it's sustainable, the way the salaries are going, the way the fan support's dropping a little bit? What do you think about all that?
I don't know, man. If they're paying these guys these salaries, Joe, they got it, man. These owners got it. It's phenomenal. The salaries of some of these. I mean, $100 million is nothing anymore.
That's so. I mean, when you were playing, $2, $3, $4, $5 million was a lot of money for a player. Nowadays, that's like the minimum. I mean,
I like what the minimum was 5 years ago. I never made, and I played parts of 9 years, Joe. So I mean, the salaries are crazy, which is great. It's great. I mean, to the winner go the spoils. You make it to the big leagues, you deserve every nickel you make. So.
Do you think they're going to put a salary cap on there? Or do you think they got so much money it doesn't really matter at this point, the owners at least?
I don't know. I think a salary cap might be coming in the future. I know they want to cap it if they can, but who knows? I mean, depends. I mean, a lot of these stadiums don't look full too. I think the TV contracts are where they're making their money.
Oh yeah,
they're making huge money on the TV contract.
Well, if you get so much for the TV contract, you don't even need to worry about tickets.
Yeah, I don't think they care about the fan anymore. The tickets are really expensive too. They're not cheap anymore.
I just wait for VetTix to drop tickets in an email and go to that. I can't. I mean, you got kids, you got 3-4 people going to a game, man. Fuck, you can't afford it.
Oh man, especially football. I don't know. Oh. Basketball, they charge an arm and a leg. Oh
yeah, my Brownies. I got to get season tickets done every year. Though I got to see all the Browns games. That
you go to every game?
Oh yeah, all the home games and 3-4 of the away games every year. At least it's fun, man.
I bet that's fun. I went to one game when I was in '95. They gave us tickets in the September game. It was awesome at the old stadium, in Cleveland.
Outstanding. Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Jesse Levis for joining us today, sir. It's been an honor. We have fun. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, guys. And we'll talk to you later. We'll see you at 9:30. We're doing a party show at 9:30. Thanks for coming up, brother.
See you, Joe.
All right. Appreciate it.